The air in Washington that evening was thick with the smell of rain, the kind that seeps into your clothes and clings to your skin. The Capitol dome glistened beneath the storm clouds, lit in ghostly white, and the city hummed with whispers that something was coming. Journalists tapped nervously on keyboards, aides scurried through marble hallways, and somewhere deep inside a camera-lit studio, Tulsi Gabbard sat silently, her hands folded, her eyes steady, ready to deliver the words that would ignite the kind of firestorm few dared to imagine. She didn't flinch when the red light above the camera came alive. Her breath was calm, but the tension in her chest was undeniable. Tulsi had known this moment was inevitable. She had carried pieces of the truth for years, watching from the shadows as decisions made in smoky backrooms in gilded conference halls shaped the lives of millions. She had been both soldier and politician, a woman with calloused hands from battlefield grit and a heart still marked by the quiet discipline of service. Duty, not ambition, had brought her here. But she also knew what it would cost her friends, allies, maybe even her safety. The American people, she began, her voice steady yet edged with fire, deserve to know what has been hidden. The games played with our future, the hands pulling the strings behind the curtain. Her words cut like glass, and within minutes, her revelation touched the name that made entire rooms go silent: Barack Obama. The shockwave was immediate. Tulsi's claim wasn't wild speculation. It was layered with detail, backed with evidence she had guarded carefully. She spoke of backroom networks, of promises made not on the campaign trail but in private dinners attended by the most powerful names in politics and finance. And as she spoke, another set of names emerged: Hillary Clinton, George Soros. To the casual listener, it was political drama. To those who knew the players, it was dynamite. Far from the studio, in a private estate hidden in the wooded outskirts of New York, Hillary Clinton sat before a television screen. The blue glow lit her face, and her jaw clenched with every passing word. This wasn't the first time she had been accused of playing puppet master, but this was different. Tulsi was no wild conspiracy theorist. She had once been one of their own, a figure groomed by the establishment, a soldier who had served honorably. That made her revelation dangerous. Hillary muttered something under her breath, words sharp enough to slice the silence, before turning toward her phone. She needed to control the narrative before it consumed her. Across the ocean in a glass-paneled penthouse in Switzerland, George Soros listened in silence as an aide nervously replayed Tulsi's broadcast. Soros didn't shout. He rarely did. His power lay in his stillness, in the way he could turn chaos into order by moving unseen pieces on the chessboard of global influence. Yet even he felt the tremor. Gabbard had struck not at his fortune, but at his aura, the perception of invincibility. He knew perception often mattered more than reality. But Tulsi wasn't driven by personal revenge or ambition. Her internal struggle was heavier than most knew. For years she had battled the gnawing question of whether speaking out would help or harm her country. She had seen soldiers lose their lives because of policies crafted in those hidden circles. She had walked among bombed-out streets overseas and seen children whose eyes carried the weight of decisions made far away in Washington. That memory haunted her more than the threats she knew would follow. The public reaction was swift and electric. Crowds gathered outside news stations demanding answers. Some cheered Tulsi for her bravery, others condemned her as reckless. The political world fractured instantly, some lawmakers rushing to defend her, others denouncing her as a traitor. The story consumed airwaves, but beneath the surface, darker currents began to stir. One subplot unfolded in the quiet suburbs of Virginia, where a young journalist named Daniel Ruiz, an investigative reporter barely 3 years into his career, found himself drawn into the chaos. Daniel had been chasing stories about lobbying networks for months, his editors dismissing his work as too risky or not marketable. But Tulsi's revelation lit a fire inside him. He began digging, connecting dots no one had dared to connect, piecing together how money funneled through nonprofits linked back to the names Tulsi had exposed. The deeper he went, the more danger crept into his life. Anonymous calls at night. A car idling too long outside his apartment. Yet his curiosity turned into resolve. Tulsi had opened the door, and now he had to walk through it. Another subplot wove through the life of Sarah Carter, a mother from Ohio whose son had died overseas in a war she never believed in. She had followed Tulsi's career quietly, admiring her rare willingness to challenge both parties. When Tulsi spoke of hidden agendas, Sarah felt the sting of truth. She dug out her son's last letter, its words trembling with doubt about the mission he was on. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the same powerful figures Tulsi named had shaped the path that led to her son's death. Sarah decided she wouldn't just grieve quietly anymore. She began organizing, gathering mothers and fathers like her, voices once silenced by sorrow now fueled by anger and clarity. As these stories converged, Tulsi's life became a storm. She received threats cloaked in polite language, advisors warning her that her career was over, that she had crossed the point of no return. Her friends called with worry in their voices, urging her to back down. Some allies distanced themselves, afraid of being caught in the fallout. And yet, late at night, she would sit by the window, listening to the rain, thinking of the soldiers she had served beside, of the faces of the innocent who had paid the price for choices they never made. That was her anchor. The climax came during a tense public hearing. Tulsi was called to testify, and the chamber swelled with cameras, reporters, and a restless crowd outside. The air crackled with anticipation. Her opponents expected her to falter, to second-guess, to retreat under the glare of scrutiny. But Tulsi's voice didn't waver. She laid out what she had seen, what she knew, and why she could no longer stay silent. Every word felt like a strike of lightning in the storm. Across the country, Sarah watched the hearing from her living room, clutching her son's photograph. Daniel sat in the press gallery, scribbling furiously, knowing history was unfolding before his eyes. And even Hillary and Soros, in their separate enclaves, understood that something irreversible had happened. Power was no longer unchallenged. The truth had broken through the cracks. The resolution wasn't clean or simple. The networks Tulsi exposed didn't crumble overnight. They fought back with denial, with spin, with every resource at their disposal. But something deeper had shifted. Citizens questioned more. Journalists dug harder. Families like Sarah's refused to stay silent. And Daniel's work, inspired by Tulsi's courage, gained traction, giving voice to those who had long been ignored. In the quiet after the storm, Tulsi reflected on the cost. She knew she had sacrificed her place in the comfortable halls of power. But she also knew she had kept faith with the oath she had once sworn to defend her country, not just with weapons, but with truth. The lesson was simple yet profound: courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to stand firm when silence would be easier. And as the rain cleared from Washington's sky, the city buzzed with a new awareness that even in a world ruled by hidden hands and heavy shadows, one voice, steady and unyielding, could send shockwaves that reached the highest towers of power.